So I have been a full-time handywoman since about April of 2020, and I have some ongoing things that I have learned that I would like to share with you that might be helpful if you are a brand new homeowner and would like to save some money, or if you're a renter and your landlord is very hard to reach and you need to fix things right away. If you have a draining bathroom sink, you might not even have to call a plumber, or you might not even have to get a hand snake to snake it. That clog typically is pretty close to surface level. All you have to do is unscrew the circular nut that's underneath the sink basin, unscrew it right side, so clockwise. Take out the little metal stick that holds the pop-up stopper, and take out the pop-up stopper from the top of the sink basin and clean it. That usually clears the clog, or you could see from the surface any debris. Take that out with a disposable chopstick, or take that out with a plastic sink that you can get at the dollar store, and that should clear the clog. A loose doorknob. Doorknobs are usually secured with 2 screws from the inside, or sometimes the doorknob itself will have a tiny hole which has a set screw that could be loosened up with an Allen wrench. Usually that set screw is too loose, and by tightening it, that loose doorknob will no longer be loose. Or if you have a doorknob, a typical doorknob which has the screws from the inside, just 2 of them, tighten those, and that should tighten the doorknob as well. You don't have to call a locksmith, you don't have to repair the doorknob altogether. If it's not latching, it could be the strike plate that's on the door frame that is not secured. So there's 2 screws there. You might want to tighten those and see if it latches that way. Replacing a fill valve. So you have somehow determined that you need to replace the fill valve. Replacing that fill valve is so easy. All you have to do is turn off the water to the toilet tank with that handle that's like kind of near the floor. Turn it all the way to the right side. Loosen the plastic nut that's underneath your tank, and then take off the flex hose or flex tube supply line that supplies the water coming from the wall to the toilet tank. Detach the fill valve and remove the refill tube from the overflow tube, and the whole thing would just come off. And replace it with a new one, and do the steps in reverse. Tighten the plastic nut, put back the flex hose, make sure the refill tube is clipped onto the overflow tube on the right side, and then turn on the water by turning it left hand. Or look at the directions that comes with the fill valve to adjust the water level so that it is 1 inch underneath the top of the overflow tube. If you are assembling furniture for yourself, or maybe for a client, if you're a handywoman too, and you didn't bring a towel, or you're not working on carpet, what I like to do is try to cut the box that it comes in as clean as possible. If you can't, because you aren't supposed to use the box cutter or whatever, try to use the biggest styrofoam piece that you can find and use that. Use that to work on so that you don't scratch up the floor or scratch up the item. Shelves. If you are putting up shelves that have the brackets are separate from the actual shelving, put the brackets on the shelf and screw them on first, and then line it up to the wall where you want it and mark the holes, instead of doing the brackets, the shelves, and brackets, because screwing the little screws from upside down, you could do it at a weird angle where the shelf doesn't sit flat, or you screw in the second bracket a little bit off and then the shelf is completely off. Always screw in the brackets onto the shelf first and then mark the holes, and use the shelf, the top of the shelf, and put a level on top, that flat surface, to level it out. Because at the end of the day, the brackets can be a little bit off that you could probably not even tell from the naked eye, but the shelf, the top of the shelf, has to be completely level, because that's where you're actually going to put stuff. Vertical blinds. Vertical blinds are used quite often still, and I have been called to repair those things, and I always thought if the plastic contraption that holds the louvers up to the actual frame, if that's broken, I thought, oh, you gotta just replace the whole thing.
No.
Home Depot actually has a repair kit for vertical blinds. I have not personally used it, but that does exist. So, your tub spout. It's actually pretty easy to replace. Mine looks pretty gross and calcium buildup is everywhere, but I'm renting, so I don't really care to replace it for aesthetic reasons. But usually it has like an Allen wrench, like the ones that I showed in the video has a Allen wrench key screw at the bottom, so you unscrew that and it should slip right out. Or it's a screw-on type tub diverter, so just unscrew it by turning it to the left, unscrew it completely, and then it'll come off and replace it that way. Or it's just like a slip on and slip off. It might not even have a Allen wrench screw anywhere at all, and you can just pull it right off. When you do replace it, make sure if it is a tub diverter, meaning that it has the pin where you lift the pin up and down to guide the water through the spout or through just the shower pipe, make sure you get a tub spout that has a diverter if you need it, doesn't have it if you don't need it. I have not personally done this, but I did research for a client and I found a YouTube video on natural stone repair. So apparently there's like a 2-part epoxy and something else where you could fill the cracked hole area for natural stone, and then you could use polyester dye to figure out what color that like beigeish color natural stone is, and then you can fix it that way. So that might be something you can suggest to your client if you have a client asking about that. I have not personally done it, so I don't know much more than that, but that does exist. But I did research for a client and that might fix your problem. If you have a power strip in the kitchen, none of the plugs are working, but the circuit breaker you've checked and the circuit is on, you might want to look around where that power strip is, find a GFCI plug outlet that has a reset button and turn on the reset button there, because the power strip might be on the same circuit, and there, by doing so, you have resetted that circuit and it should turn on. Anything beyond that, I have no idea how to fix. I'm not an electrician and I don't know that info yet. As I continue along with this list of things that I've learned, things that I find helpful to know, I will make a part 2 to this video and so on and so forth. But yeah, try to do your research before you call someone if you can't afford it. I mean, by all means, if you want to support businesses, you want to support handy women that do know how to do stuff, or plumbers, whatever, you want to just pay someone to do it, by all means. But you know, I was just thinking, I'm thinking about putting money down on a house that, you know, I could experiment doing a lot of handiwork in and also to live in. And at that point, I'm sure I'll have to put down so much money right there and then that if there are really priority things that needs to get done, I want to know how to do them myself if I can't afford to pay someone fairly. If I got anything wrong, please tell me that I did in the comments down below. And I will see you in my next video. Peace.
It's really